Ready to dive into a self-help classic that's surprisingly relevant even today.
Sounds good.
You've brought us James Allen's As a Man Thinketh,
Oh, excellent choice.
and we're excited to kind of unlock its wisdom together.
Yeah.
This book really dives right into the power of thought to shape our reality. We're talking everything from our circumstances to our character,
Right.
even our destiny.
It's pretty amazing how this book was written way back in 1903.
Yeah?
Yet, in our modern world where everyone's striving for self-improvement,
Uh-huh.
its message feels surprisingly relevant.
Totally. It's almost like Allen predicted the whole self-help movement.
Mm.
He's saying that instead of feeling like we're battling against external forces,
Yeah.
maybe we create those circumstances through our thoughts.
Right.
It's a pretty radical idea, right?
Absolutely. He uses this really vivid analogy of the mind as a garden
Okay.
to drive this point home.
Okay.
He argues that our minds, just like gardens, will inevitably produce something. We can either cultivate beautiful flowers and nourishing fruits, or we'll end up with weeds and thorns.
Weeds and thorns, yeah.
It all depends on the thoughts we plant.
Okay, so I get the garden analogy.
Yeah.
But how does this apply to, say, someone who's stuck in a dead-end job they hate? Are they really just thinking their way into that situation?
Well, Allen doesn't shy away from the bad seeds we plant with our thoughts. He argues that if you constantly focus on feeling trapped and resentful,
Right.
those thoughts become habitual.
Uh-huh.
And over time, those habits
Yeah.
could lead to a lack of motivation to seek new opportunities,
Right.
or even self-sabotaging behaviors.
Oh, wow.
He even gives some pretty intense examples like how bestial thoughts,
Bestial thoughts?
meaning those focused on pure indulgence,
Okay.
can actually lead to negative circumstances like poverty and disease.
That's pretty hardcore. It's definitely making me think twice about the kinds of thoughts I'm letting take root in my own mind.
Right.
So, is he saying we have total control over everything that happens to us? That feels a bit unrealistic, don't you think?
That's a good question. And to be fair to Allen, he's not saying we should ignore external factors
Rush
or
that.
pretend everything is sunshine and rainbows. Instead, he's urging us to focus on what we can control, our inner world.
Our inner world, okay.
He uses this example of two men who lose their life savings.
Okay.
One despairs and sees it as the end,
Right.
while the other sees it as a chance to start fresh and work even harder.
Mm.
Same event, vastly different outcomes because of their mindset.
Okay. I'm starting to see how powerful this shift in perspective could be.
Yeah.
But isn't that easier said than done? How do we actually go about changing our thought patterns, especially when we're bombarded with negativity from the outside world?
Allen would argue that it all starts with awareness.
Okay.
Becoming conscious of the thoughts we're habitually cultivating is the first step. Then it's about making a deliberate choice to shift our focus, to plant those seeds of positive, constructive thoughts.
So it's like weeding out the negativity and making space for the good stuff to grow.
Precisely. And Allen doesn't stop at just thought.
Okay.
He believes that true transformation requires action.
Uh-huh.
He actually sees aimlessness as a vice and emphasizes the importance of having a clear purpose, a
Yeah.
direction for our lives.
We've got to pair those positive thoughts with purposeful action. Got it.
Exactly.
But what about those of us who haven't quite figured out our grand life purpose yet? I know I'm still searching for mine.
That's something Allen addresses directly.
Okay.
Even if you haven't discovered some big, overarching purpose,
Right.
he suggests focusing on performing your current duty flawlessly, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant it might seem.
Wow, that's kind of unexpected. I would thought he'd be all about chasing big dreams. Right. The emphasis on these everyday tasks.
That's where it gets interesting. Okay.
Allen believes that by focusing on doing even mundane tasks with excellence, we develop valuable qualities
Yeah.
like focus, resolution, and energy.
Right.
These, he argues, are the building blocks for achieving anything we set our minds to.
So it's like training our minds for success, even in the smallest details of life.
Exactly. He believes that this type of dedicated effort in our daily lives strengthens our willpower and cultivates a mindset of excellence.
I'm starting to see how this all ties together. But we all know those pesky inner obstacles like fear and doubt can creep in and
Right.
sabotage our best efforts. How does Allen suggest we deal with those?
He's pretty straightforward about that.
Okay.
Allen considers doubt and fear the ultimate enemies, more so than any external obstacle.
Really?
He argues they paralyze our actions, prevent us from gaining knowledge, and ultimately guarantee failure.
He doesn't mince words, does he?
Not when it comes to these inner saboteurs.
He has this striking line. Thought allied fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force.
Okay.
Basically, it's not just about positive thinking, it's about having a clear goal, facing our fears head on, and aligning our inner world with the actions we need to take.
So courage and clarity of purpose are key.
Absolutely.
It's interesting how this connects with what we know about modern psychology.
Yeah.
We're always hearing about the power of self-belief, visualization,
Right.
and overcoming those limiting beliefs. Alan was really ahead of his time.
Definitely. And this leads us to another key concept in the book, achievement.
Okay.
Alan seems to lay out a pretty clear framework. The effort you put in directly corresponds to the results you get.
Oh.
No shortcuts or magic formulas.
He sounds like a firm believer in you reap what you sow, both in the mental and physical realms.
Absolutely. Luck and chance are merely illusions to him.
Okay.
He actually uses some compelling historical examples like Columbus, Copernicus, and Buddha to illustrate how they achieved incredible things.
Oh.
He argues that they weren't just lucky, they had a vision.
Uh-huh.
They persevered, they put in the work, and the results followed.
That's a powerful reminder that it's not about waiting for the perfect conditions, it's about taking charge and putting in the effort.
Exactly.
But I'm curious, what about those times when we feel completely overwhelmed by our circumstances? Like when it feels like life is throwing everything at us at once.
This is where Alan's emphasis on cultivating serenity comes in.
Okay.
And it's not just about fleeting moments of calm.
Yeah.
He's talking about a deeper state of being.
This is where it gets really interesting. Because Alan contrasts the serenity of a life lived in alignment with truth, capital T truth, with the turmoil experienced by those chasing after external validation or material possessions.
Right. He makes a really striking comparison.
Yeah.
He talks about how insignificant the pursuit of money and status appears when contrasted with a life that finds its center in what he calls the eternal calm.
Wow, the eternal calm. But honestly, that sounds pretty lofty and maybe a bit out of reach for the average person. How do we actually cultivate that kind of serenity in our everyday lives?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And one that we'll definitely explore further as we continue our deep dive. But Alan suggests that it starts with understanding the laws of thought, mastering our inner world, and recognizing the illusory nature of external pursuits.
So it's about aligning ourselves with a deeper reality,
Yeah.
one that goes beyond the fleeting pleasures and dramas of the material world.
Exactly. It's about finding that unshakable inner peace that comes from aligning our thoughts, actions, and desires with our highest values. And as we'll see, it's a journey that requires both self-awareness and deliberate effort.
Okay, that gives us a lot to think about already. I'm definitely feeling inspired to take a closer look at my own mental garden and see what needs tended. But before we go any further, I'm curious to hear what stands out to you, dear listener. What's resonated most with you so far in our exploration of As a Man Thinketh? Hold on to that thought.
We'll be right back. It's fascinating how Alan connects this idea of serenity to his core premise that thoughts create reality.
Right.
He seems to be suggesting that if we can master our thoughts, if we can cultivate that inner garden of peace and wisdom, then that serenity will inevitably manifest in our outward circumstances as well.
So it's not just about feeling calm on the inside.
Yeah.
It's about creating a life that reflects that inner peace. I like that.
Yeah.
But I'm still grappling with the idea of self-control, which Alan seems to place a lot of emphasis on. Sometimes it feels like self-control gets a bad rap.
Yeah.
Like it's all about restriction and deprivation.
That's a really interesting point, and I think it touches on a common misconception about self-control.
Okay.
Alan's perspective is less about denying ourselves and more about mastery. It's about recognizing those impulses, desires, or even negative thought patterns that might be controlling us,
Right.
and then consciously choosing to direct our energy in a more constructive way.
So it's not about suppressing those thoughts and feelings,
No.
but about becoming aware of them
Yeah,
and then choosing how we respond.
exactly. It's like becoming the captain of our own ship, navigating through the storms of life with a steady hand on the wheel.
Okay.
Alan argues that those who are constantly reacting to external events, getting swept up in anxieties and worries, are living in a state of what he calls slavery.
Oh, wow.
They're not truly in control of their own lives.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
And it definitely ties back to his idea that our thoughts create our reality. If we're constantly dwelling in negativity and fear,
Right.
we're essentially attracting more of that into our lives.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
But the good news is it works both ways.
Okay.
By cultivating positive and constructive thoughts,
Yeah.
we can create a more positive and fulfilling reality.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here.
Mm.
But,
Yeah.
there are times when it feels like no matter how hard I try to think positively,
Uh-huh.
circumstances just keep dragging me down.
Yeah.
Like, what about those situations where it feels like we really are victims of our circumstances?
Alan would argue that even in those situations, we always have a choice.
Okay.
We can choose to dwell in negativity and let ourselves be defined by those circumstances, or we can choose to look for the opportunity, the lesson, the
Yeah.
chance to grow and become stronger.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't sugarcoat it, though.
No.
He acknowledges that this takes conscious effort,
Right.
discipline,
Uh-huh.
and a willingness to challenge our habitual patterns of thinking.
He seems to be suggesting that our thoughts can literally solidify into habits, which then shape our circumstances. It's a pretty profound idea.
It is.
And he even provides specific examples, right?
Right. He talks about how bestial thoughts,
Bestial thoughts, yeah.
those driven by pure indulgence or base desires,
Okay.
can lead to harmful habits like excessive drinking or reckless behavior. And over time,
Yeah.
these habits can actually manifest as negative circumstances like poverty or illness.
So it's like our thoughts create our actions, which then create our reality. It's a bit daunting to think about,
Yeah.
but also incredibly empowering
Right.
because it means we have the power to change our reality by changing our thoughts and actions.
Exactly. And Alan doesn't just focus on the negative.
Okay.
He also talks about how cultivating virtues like love, purity, gentleness,
Right.
and of course self-control can lead to wisdom, nobility, and a life of influence and blessedness, as he calls it.
So it's not just about avoiding negative thoughts. It's about actively cultivating positive qualities.
Yes.
And aligning ourselves with higher principles.
Absolutely. He believes that true prosperity and fulfillment come not from material wealth or external validation,
Okay.
but from cultivating a strong and virtuous character.
Right.
This is where that idea of serenity we were discussing earlier comes back into play.
Yeah.
He contrasts the inner peace of a life aligned with those higher truths, with the turmoil and dissatisfaction experienced by those constantly chasing after
Right.
fleeting pleasures and external validation.
He paints a pretty stark picture.
Mm.
But I have to admit, it's a compelling one.
It really challenges us to examine our priorities and consider what truly matters. Are we chasing after fleeting desires and external validation?
Right.
Or are we building a life that reflects our deepest values and aspirations?
Okay, so we've talked about the power of thought,
Right.
the importance of self-control, and this idea of cultivating virtue.
Yeah.
But Alan also talks a lot about achievement. And he seems to have a very specific perspective on it.
Yes, he does. He believes there's a direct correlation between the effort we put in
Right.
and the results we achieve. To Alan,
Yeah.
luck and chance are just illusions. He uses those inspiring examples of figures like Columbus, Copernicus, and Buddha, arguing that they achieved incredible things, not because they were lucky, but because they had a clear vision, unwavering determination, and a willingness to put in the work, even when faced with challenges and setbacks.
A powerful reminder that we can achieve remarkable things when we align our thoughts, actions, and desires with a clear purpose. But what about those times when we feel lost or uncertain about our purpose? What advice does Alan offer for those who are still searching?
That's a really important question.
Yeah.
And as we touched on earlier, Alan acknowledges that not everyone has their grand life purpose figured out.
Right.
For those who are still searching, he offers a simple yet profound piece of advice.
Okay.
Focus on performing your current duty flawlessly, no matter how insignificant it might seem.
That's interesting. It seems a bit counterintuitive. You'd think he'd encourage people to go out and chase their passions or search for their dream job.
He does encourage exploration and self-discovery.
Okay.
But his point is that by focusing on doing even our everyday tasks with excellence, we cultivate valuable qualities like focus, discipline, and a strong work ethic. These, he argues, are the foundation for achieving anything we set our minds to.
So it's about building those inner strengths and developing a mindset of excellence, even in the smallest details of life.
Exactly. He even quotes a powerful passage that speaks to this. The weakest soul know in its own weakness and believe in this truth that strength can only be developed by effort and practice, will thus believe in at once begin to exert itself, and adding effort to effort, patience to patience, and strength to strength, will never cease to develop and will at last grow divinely strong.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty inspiring message. It's like he's saying that we don't have to wait for some grand revelation or external validation to start moving towards our goals.
Right?
We can start right now
Yeah.
in this very moment by focusing on what we can do,
Right.
no matter how small it might seem.
It's about shifting from a mindset of scarcity and limitation to one of abundance and potential. And it all starts with taking those small but consistent steps towards excellence in our daily lives.
So how does this tie back to Alan's overall message about the power of thought?
He believes that by consistently putting in the effort,
Right.
even in seemingly mundane tasks,
Yeah.
we strengthen our belief in ourselves and our ability to achieve our goals. This, in turn, influences our thoughts
Okay.
and ultimately shapes our reality.
It's like a positive feedback loop.
Right.
The more we act in alignment with our goals,
Yeah.
the more we believe in ourselves and the more
Yeah.
likely we are to achieve those goals.
Precisely. And it's a reminder that we're not just passive recipients of fate,
Right.
but active creators of our own destinies. Now, we can't talk about achievement without addressing those pesky inner obstacles,
Right.
doubt and fear.
Right.
How does Alan suggest we overcome them?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Alan is very clear that doubt and fear are the biggest enemies of progress and achievement. He argues that they paralyze us, prevent us from taking action, and ultimately lead to failure.
He sounds almost ruthless when it comes to these inner saboteurs.
He is. He sees them as crippling forces that hold us back from realizing our full potential. He famously states, "Thought allied fearlessly to purpose becomes creative force."
Okay.
Essentially, he's saying that when we align our thoughts with our goals and act courageously without letting fear dictate our choices,
Yeah.
we tap into a powerful creative energy that can propel us towards our dreams.
So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about having a clear purpose,
Yes.
facing our fears, and taking bold action.
Exactly. He even gives a compelling example of a man who loses all of his savings due to a bank failure. Instead of giving in to despair and fear, the man sees it as an opportunity to work harder and rebuild his fortune.
Wow.
By focusing on what he could control,
Right.
his actions and his attitude, he eventually achieves even greater success than he had before.
It's a powerful reminder that our mindset plays a huge role in shaping our reality, even in the face of adversity.
Absolutely. And it speaks to Alan's belief in the importance of cultivating faith.
Okay.
Not necessarily religious faith,
Right.
but faith in ourselves, in our abilities, and in the power of our own thoughts to shape our reality. He believes that this kind of unwavering self-belief, coupled with focused action, is essential for overcoming challenges and achieving our goals.
So it's not just about positive thinking.
Right.
It's about cultivating a deep and an unshakable belief in ourselves
Yeah.
and our ability to create the life we desire.
Precisely. And this brings us back to one of the most beautiful and perhaps challenging concepts in the book, serenity.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because Alan contrasts the serenity of a life lived in alignment with truth, capital T truth, versus the turmoil of those chasing external validation or material possessions.
He uses this really striking comparison. He talks about how insignificant the pursuit of money and status appears when contrasted with a life that finds its center in what he calls the eternal calm.
Wow, the eternal calm. But honestly, that sounds pretty lofty and maybe a bit out of reach for the average person. How do we actually cultivate that kind of serenity in our everyday lives?
That's a great question,
Yeah.
and one that we'll delve into more deeply as we continue.
Okay.
But Alan suggests it starts with understanding the laws of thought, mastering our inner world,
Okay.
and recognizing that lasting happiness doesn't come from chasing fleeting external rewards.
So it's about aligning ourselves with a deeper reality.
Yeah.
One that goes beyond the superficial dramas and fleeting pleasures of the material world.
Exactly. It's about finding that unshakable inner peace that comes from aligning our thoughts, actions, and desires with our highest values and aspirations.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground. We've talked about thought, self-control, purpose, achievement,
Right.
and even touched on the concept of serenity. But there's another fascinating layer to Alan's work that I'd love to explore. His concept of vision.
Ah, Yes, vision. This is where Alan really connects the power of thought to the manifestation of our desires. He argues that the visions we hold in our minds, the
Mhm.
ideals we cherish in our hearts, are the blueprints for the lives we will ultimately build.
It's like our thoughts are the seeds,
Hmm.
but our vision is the roadmap that guides those seeds towards fruition.
He uses this beautiful analogy to illustrate this point. The oak sleeps in the acorn, the bird waits in the egg, and in the highest vision of the soul, a waking angel stirs. Dreams are the seedlings of realities.
I love that. It's so poetic. It's like he's saying that our greatest achievements, our most profound realizations, all begin as a seed of a dream, a vision held in the mind's eye.
And he emphasizes that it's not enough to simply have these dreams and visions.
Right.
We must cherish them, nurture them, and most importantly, take action to bring them to life.
He even goes so far as to say, to desire is to obtain, to aspire is to achieve.
It's a bold statement,
Right.
and it might seem overly simplistic,
Yeah.
but his point is that when we align our desires with action,
Mm.
when we commit ourselves to the pursuit of our vision,
Right.
we tap into a powerful creative force that propels us towards our goals.
It's like that famous quote, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Hmm.
But in this case, the first step is having that clear vision of where you want to go.
Exactly. He provides compelling examples of individuals who achieved remarkable things
Mm.
by holding on to a vision with unwavering belief.
Okay.
He talks about Columbus cherishing a vision of a new world,
Right.
Copernicus envisioning a wider universe,
Yeah.
and Buddha seeing a spiritual world of perfect peace.
Wow.
And all of them, through their steadfast commitment to their vision, made those visions a reality.
It's inspiring to think about the power of human will and the potential that lies within each of us when we harness the power of our thoughts and align them with a clear vision.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive recipients of fate,
Mhm.
but active creators of our own experiences.
And it makes you wonder, what visions are WE holding on to?
Mm.
What dreams are we nurturing in the secret gardens of our hearts?
It's a question worth pondering. What are the seeds of greatness that we're planting with our thoughts?
Right.
What are the blueprints for the lives we're building with our visions?
And are we willing to put in the effort
Mm.
to cultivate the discipline
Right.
and make the sacrifices necessary to bring those visions to life?
These are the questions that Alan challenges us to consider.
Mm.
And they're just as relevant today as they were over a century ago.
Now, I'm curious about Alan's perspective on prosperity.
Okay.
It seems to go beyond just material wealth.
You're absolutely right. While Alan acknowledges the importance of material security,
Hmm.
he emphasizes that true prosperity is an inward realization. He writes, "The greedy man may become a millionaire, but he will always be wretched and mean and poor, whilst the upright, the open-handed and loving will realize a full and rich prosperity, even though their outward possessions may be small."
So it's more about aligning ourselves with virtues like integrity, generosity, and love, rather than chasing after material possessions for the sake of status or ego gratification.
Exactly. He believes that by cultivating those qualities,
Okay.
we create a sense of inner richness and abundance that transcends external circumstances.
It's a powerful reminder that true wealth lies not in what we possess,
Right.
but in who we are.
He even suggests that the pursuit of material wealth for selfish gain can actually lead to a sense of inner poverty and dissatisfaction.
It's that saying the more you have, the more you want. It's a never-ending chase that ultimately leaves you feeling empty.
Whereas by focusing on cultivating inner virtues and contributing to the well-being of others,
Yeah.
we create a sense of fulfillment and purpose that enriches our lives in a much more meaningful way.
It's a perspective that really challenges the traditional definition of success.
It's a shift from a focus on acquiring things to a focus on becoming a better person.
And it makes you wonder, what would our world be like if more people embraced this definition of prosperity?
It's a great question to ponder. What if our collective focus shifted from competition and accumulation to collaboration and contribution?
The beautiful vision, and perhaps one worth striving for.
And one that Alan would likely encourage us to embrace.
Yeah.
After all, he believed in the power of thought to shape not only our individual realities,
Right.
but also the world around us.
So if we want to see a world where true prosperity flourishes, perhaps we need to start by cultivating those virtues within ourselves.
It's a powerful reminder that change begins from within.
And that the thoughts we choose to entertain,
Right.
the visions we choose to nurture, and
Yeah.
the actions we choose to take
Yeah.
have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
It's a profound and empowering message.
It certainly is. Okay, so we've talked about cultivating vision, aligning our thoughts with our goals,
Mm.
and embracing a more holistic understanding of prosperity.
Yeah.
But there's one more aspect of Alan's work that I think is worth highlighting,
Okay.
and that's his perspective on spirituality.
This is where Alan's work takes on a more mystical and contemplative tone.
Okay.
While he doesn't subscribe to any particular religious dogma,
Yeah.
he speaks to the presence of a divine spark within each of us.
It's like he's pointing to a deeper reality
Right,
that
yeah.
transcends the material world.
He talks about the importance of connecting with this inner divinity through practices like meditation, contemplation, and the cultivation of virtues like love, compassion, and selflessness.
He even uses the analogy of a temple within, a sacred space where we can commune with this higher power.
And he suggests that by spending time in this inner sanctuary,
Yeah.
we can gain access to wisdom, guidance,
Right.
and a sense of peace that surpasses all understanding.
It's interesting how he connects this spiritual dimension to the power of thought.
He believes that our thoughts are not just mental constructs, but also spiritual forces that have the power to shape our reality.
It's like he's saying that when we align our thoughts with the highest good, with the principles of love and truth,
Right.
we tap into a power that transcends our individual limitations.
He even suggests that by cultivating a pure and selfless heart,
Okay.
we can experience a profound sense of connection with the divine, a sense of unity with the universe.
It's a beautiful and inspiring vision.
It's a reminder that we're not just isolated individuals, but also integral parts of a greater whole.
And that by aligning ourselves with the principles of love and truth, we can tap into a power that has the potential to transform not only our own lives,
Right.
but also the world around us.
It's a message of hope and empowerment.
So what does this all mean for the listener, for you? What are some of the key takeaways from our deep dive into As a Man Thinketh?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is the realization that our thoughts are not just fleeting mental events,
Right.
but powerful forces that have a profound impact on our lives.
It's like we've been given the keys to a powerful creative machine, but many of us haven't learned how to use it effectively.
Alan encourages us to become conscious creators of our own reality by choosing our thoughts carefully, cultivating positive mental habits, and aligning our thoughts with our goals and aspirations.
He also emphasizes the importance of self-control, not as a form of deprivation,
Right.
but as a path to mastery and empowerment.
By mastering our impulses, desires, and negative thoughts,
Yeah.
we free ourselves from the tyranny of our lower nature and become captains of our own ships.
And this mastery extends to our circumstances as well.
He challenges us to recognize that we're not just victims of our circumstances, but active creators of our own experiences.
By taking responsibility for our thoughts, we can change our perspective, shift our mindset, and ultimately shape our reality in a more positive and fulfilling direction.
And all of this is underpinned by a deeper spiritual understanding.
Alan points to the presence of a divine spark within each of us, a source of wisdom, guidance, and power that we can tap into through practices like meditation, contemplation, and the cultivation of virtues like love, compassion, and selflessness.
He encourages us to connect with this inner divinity, to align our thoughts with the highest good, and to realize our potential as co-creators of a more beautiful and harmonious world.
It's a powerful and inspiring message, and one that has resonated with readers for over a century.
And it continues to offer profound insights and guidance for anyone seeking to live a more conscious, purposeful, and fulfilling life.
So, as we wrap up our deep dive into As a Man Thinketh, what's one final thought?
Okay.
One nugget of wisdom that you'd like to leave the listener with?
I think one of the most powerful and provocative ideas that emerges from this work is the concept of collective thought.
Okay.
Alan focuses on the individual, but imagine the power if a whole society shifted its dominant thinking. What if instead of focusing on fear, scarcity, and division, we collectively embraced love, abundance, and unity?
That's a mind-blowing concept. It's like he's suggesting That our thoughts not only shape our individual realities,
Right.
but also contribute to the collective consciousness of humanity.
And that by choosing to focus on the highest good,
Mm,
on the principles of love and truth,
yeah.
we can create a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
It's a call to action, an invitation to become conscious co-creators of a more beautiful and harmonious world.
And it starts with each of us,
Right.
with the thoughts we choose to entertain,
Mm.
the beliefs we choose to uphold,
Mm.
and the actions we choose to take.
So, dear listener, as you go forth from this deep dive, I encourage you to consider the power of your own thoughts. What seeds are you planting in the garden of your mind?
Right.
What visions are you nurturing in your heart?
Mm.
And what actions will you take to bring those visions to life?
Remember, you are not just a passive observer, but an active creator of your own reality.
And the world is waiting to see what you will create. It really is. And what's remarkable is that despite being written over a century ago, Alan's message feels more relevant than ever today.
Absolutely. In a world, filled with distractions and anxieties and just this constant barrage of information,
Right.
this message about taking control of our thoughts and aligning them with our highest aspirations is such a powerful antidote to the chaos.
Yeah, he's not just offering some feel-good philosophy. He's really providing a practical framework for personal transformation. He's saying, look, the world might be a messy place, but you have the power to cultivate your inner world, to choose your thoughts, to act with purpose, and to create a reality that reflects your best self.
And what I find particularly compelling is that he doesn't shy away from the spiritual dimension of this process.
Right.
He acknowledges that there's something greater at play,
Yeah.
a deeper reality that we can tap into through the cultivation of virtues like love, compassion, and selflessness.
It's like he's saying that true transformation isn't just about achieving worldly success or accumulating material possessions. It's about aligning ourselves with those timeless principles that connect us to something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. He reminds us that we're not just isolated individuals striving for our own selfish gain, but interconnected beings who have the potential to contribute to a greater good.
It's a beautiful and hopeful vision, but I have to admit it can also feel a bit daunting.
Yeah.
Like, where do we even begin to cultivate this kind of inner transformation?
Well, Alan provides a roadmap. He encourages us to start with self-awareness,
Okay.
to pay attention to our thoughts and identify those patterns that are no longer serving us. He also emphasizes the importance of discipline and consistent effort.
So it's not about some magical overnight transformation.
Yeah.
It's about making small but deliberate choices each day to cultivate those positive qualities and align our actions with our highest aspirations.
Precisely. And he provides practical suggestions for how to do this, such as setting aside time for meditation and contemplation, engaging in acts of kindness and generosity, and consciously choosing to focus on the good in ourselves and others.
It sounds like a journey that requires both inner work and outward action.
It does, and Alan acknowledges that it's not always easy.
Right.
There will be setbacks and challenges along the way,
Yeah.
but he encourages us to persevere, to keep our vision in mind, and to remember that true strength and resilience are developed through effort and practice.
So it's about embracing the journey with all its ups and downs and trusting that we have the power within us to create the life we desire.
That's the essence of his message, and it's a message that continues to inspire and empower readers generations after it was first written.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dives into As a Man Thinketh, I think it's safe to say that this book is more than just a self-help classic. It's a timeless guide to living a more conscious, purposeful, and fulfilling life. It's a reminder that we're not just victims of circumstance, but powerful creators of our own reality.
And that the thoughts we choose to entertain, the beliefs we choose to uphold, and the actions we choose to take have a ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
So, dear listener, we leave you with this invitation. Go forth and cultivate your inner garden, nurture those seeds of greatness, embrace the power of your thoughts, and dare to create a life that reflects the best version of yourself.
Who knows?
You might just inspire others to do the same.
And in doing so, we might just create a more beautiful and harmonious world, one thought, one action, one choice at a time.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Better Every Day. We hope you found some actionable insights to help you on your self-improvement journey. If you enjoyed the episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on future deep dives. And if you're on YouTube, hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, Small steps every day lead to big changes. See you next time.